Hi there, beautiful souls. How are you today? How are you feeling? So in this beautiful video, there's so much to talk about lately. The first thing we wanted to bring awareness to today is asking for help. This has been a big one that has shown up for me lately. As a little one, I had to learn from quite young to do things for myself, that I couldn't rely on those around me to help with anything. The main one was school, because I wanted to learn. I had this yearning to learn, that when my parents came and they were immigrants here in Australia, they didn't know how to speak the language. So they couldn't help me with like basic, the English activities that we had at school or anything like that, the reading, the writing, all of that. I had to work all of that out by myself at school. And with maths, they couldn't help me either because neither of them completed school. Mum, I think, got up to grade 4 in school, and then she had to stop and had to go to work to help out with, because they were both from very, very poor backgrounds. So she had to go to work to contribute to the household. And Dad went up to year 6, and because he was out, on a farm, but again, very poor, they did a lot of work on the farm. So for them, growing up, school wasn't important, I guess. It wasn't, it's not that it wasn't compulsory, it just wasn't deemed important for the life that they were going to have, So going through school, that was already my first, introduction, to having to do things on my own. And then there was, the not crying was a sign of strength at home. My first experience with that was going to the dentist for the first time with my dad. I had this toothache. And my dad said to me that if I screamed or made a fuss or anything, he would just leave me in there with this stranger. It was my first time going to the dentist. I didn't even know the dentist, So that to me was terrifying. The thought of being left with this stranger that I didn't know was more terrifying than me crying because of the pain, So I learned from that you are stronger if you don't cry, if you don't show your emotions, So these two things were two things that I took on in childhood that were important. One was that I needed to be self-reliant. I could only rely on myself to get things done and to get them done properly. There was a this thing about having it done properly, And when I relied on others, they just, they're always going to let me down. It was never going to be done the way I wanted it to be done. I hated doing projects at school with others. When they assigned you to a group, I just hated doing that. I always wanted to be working on my own because I knew that I was going to put in the effort. I was going to get it done the way I wanted to have it done, That was just me as a child. And I was already, even before my sister was born, my parents were always talking about, I spent a lot of time on my own. On my own. They thought I was on my own. Exploring the world. I loved living in my own little world, but I wasn't alone. They would see me on my own thinking that I was playing by myself, but I actually wasn't. And then, so these were the patterns that were created in childhood, right? And for many of us, we grow up with, we can't ask for help. Why? Because asking for help is a sign of weakness, right? So many of us have grown up with this idea that if we ask for help, it means that we're not strong enough to work it out for ourselves, we're not smart enough to work it out for ourselves, or we're not whatever it is, but there's an enough at the end of that, right? And it was just recently doing, because I'm doing a lot of coaching with coaches at the moment, and we're coaching each other, and a lot is coming up, And one of the things was only just recently that for me, asking for help made me feel like I'm a burden to that person. That I can't work it out for myself and I need help means that I'm a burden to that person. I'm taking up their time, I'm wasting their time. All of these things were coming up for me in that moment when I was really looking at why I can't ask for help, And at the bottom of it, when I looked at the core of it, it was because I felt I was a burden if I asked for help to that person. I was giving them more problems. And looking back on it, I see it. When my sister came into the world, she had so many issues, and my mum was finding it hard to cope with all of those issues. And so I learnt, it wasn't just school that I had to do it all on my own because there was no one there to assist. But it was also at home. I knew not to ask if I needed anything or ask for help even. I had to figure it out on my own, do it myself, because I knew that my mum already had enough going on than for me to go and, so it was always like if I did go to ask for something, that I was a burden to her. And the truth of it now, as I'm allowing Spirit to bring this message through, is that was an old pattern in my mum. When her parents died and she was taken to live with her aunt, they were a burden financially to her aunt, which would be my great aunt. So they were a burden, and she was treated as such, that she was a burden always. Her and her sister, my actual aunt that went to live with this aunt of hers, they were always treated like they were a burden, that they weren't appreciated, they were never shown affection, It was always like, you're just one more mouth to feed, And so I grew up with those stories, of her aunt and how awful her aunt was to her and her sister, how they were treated. And so what I realized was, because she had grown up with that pattern, my mum, of she was a burden because her mum had passed away and they were just dumped on this aunt, and she already had so many kids of her own, So there were already so many mouths to feed in such a poor environment that to add two more was a strain to them, I understand all of that. But she took that on, that she was a burden, and somehow passed that on to me, that if I needed help, if I needed to ask for anything, that I felt like I was a burden to her, So I've taken that on in life, that to ask for help is to, create problems for other people. It's to all of that. You can feel all of that heaviness already, because the word burden already feels so heavy, and the not being able to express when you're afraid or you're in pain. And that is a sign of strength. It's just insane to me, because all that does is repress, something that is there for a reason. That pain, that fear, whatever it was as a child, it's there for a reason. They're feelings that we have for a reason, not to be ignored, but to be felt, But for me, with time, what I realized, and what I'm realizing even more now, as I'm shifting yet again, in my expansion, but with the asking for help, is so many of us have grown up this way. And even in school, I remember my daughter, I would carry her backpack up until she was, I think, year 5 or year 6, well into most of the years. The backpack was bigger than her in kindergarten. It was so heavy. And I thought, oh, this is nuts, to make her carry this every day. So up until about year 4, I used to carry it in for her. She'd tell me what hook she wanted to hang it on, and I would put it there for her. But so many of the kids would say, why are you carrying her bag? She should carry it herself. So many of them, would say to us, why are you carrying her bag? Can't she carry it herself? And I'd always be like, I want to. And she doesn't mind, because it's too heavy. But it doesn't bother me to carry it. But so many of us already have this mentality of, independence. We have to do it ourselves. We have to do it alone. We can't ask for help. Or we shouldn't have help. You know, there's all these beliefs. And they're limiting beliefs, because the truth is that when we stand alone, we are weaker. Think about it. Really think about it. As a human being, we crave the company of other human beings. We crave it for a reason. Because together, we are stronger. Together we are stronger. But now we are having this experience of this individuality. Being individual, being strong, doing it yourself, figuring it out yourself. But we are weaker on our own. We are weaker. We are at our strongest when we are together, when we are working together, when we are figuring things out together. Because there will always be someone that has an idea, a perspective, something that you can't see, because their experiences are different to yours. The way they look at life, their perspective is different to yours. And so when we are working as a group, as many, we are opening ourselves up to all these different perspectives. We are opening up our mind. We are expanding, not contracting. Feel into it. When you feel into yourself and you think, I have to do this all alone, I can't ask for help. I must figure this out on my own. How does that feel in your body? How does it feel? Because to me now, every time I think of it, it feels contractive. It feels like I feel limited. I can't ask for help. I can't get help. I feel limited. It's like this cage I've just put myself into. And now feel into you're in a group. You can close your eyes if you want to visualize it. You are in a group now of like-minded individuals. People who share the same values, they share the same beliefs, if you want to call it that. You're on a similar path. And you're all supporting each other on this path. This is what I'm doing at the moment, coaching coaches, and we're coaching each other. And each time we get together, they're 2-hour sessions. Then I coach them for an hour and they coach me for an hour. And something always comes through, always. This is what support looks like. It's not a one-way street that you must walk alone. This is a belief, and it's a very, very limiting belief. But many of us, so many of us have been taught this to keep us in this limitation, because when we stand alone, we are weaker than when we stand together. We are weaker. As human beings, we were never meant to do everything on our own. It was never meant to be that way. We are creatures that crave company. Some of us crave solitude. Yes, we like being in our own company, and but when you really, really look down to why, for many of those that crave the solitude, it's because of the pain they've been through. And they just don't want to go through that again. And the solitude is peaceful, it's calm. There's no chaos there. You don't have to deal with other people and their issues. It's just you and the space. And that's beautiful as well. That's another experience on its own. But I know for me, I am stronger when I ask for support, when I get that support. I am stronger. And if I am to build something different, I need to be different. I need to do different. And this to me is very different. Asking for help, asking for support and getting what I need to move forward. It was funny because it was this beautiful coach I had in the last few days. And, you know, I was saying to him that every time I send off an email to the people that we've done all this beautiful coaching with, it, I want to ask a question, I want some advice or anything, just sending off an email. This is what came out. I said to him, I feel like I'm a burden to that person. I'm taking up their time. I'm wasting their time because I can't figure it out for myself. And then this beautiful coach said the following to me. And he said, when you're coaching and your clients send you emails, is that a burden to you? Do you go, oh, another email that I've got to answer and it's going to waste my time? I don't. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to support. Just as I do here on this channel. Every day there's a video posted up. Every day I make time to post up. And if people want to email, I always answer. I know here a lot of the times the comments don't show up, so if people are commenting, I do apologize. I have no control over that. I don't know why the comments don't show up. But if you send an email, and the emails are always in the descriptions below, I always answer, always. I love being that support for others. So it's learning for me to open up to the support that I need for moving forward. Accepting help when I need it. So we pray this video finds you. Always flip the question. When you're thinking, oh, you know, how it makes you feel when you ask for help, because it is a limiting belief that we have around it. For whatever reason, however it was created for you, that you're a stronger person because you can do it by yourself, or you're a smarter person because you can do it by yourself, whatever the belief is. And always think to yourself, if it was the other person asking me, would I hesitate to help? Would I hesitate? Then why do we do it to ourselves? All right, my beautiful beings, this is the question for today. We love you dearly. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And we'll see you in the next video, okay? Bye for now.